So we are going to, the point of this show is, as I'm a book guy, the way that I find books is I source them a lot of the ways that probably everybody sources books, just more often in bigger sizes. I do estate sales. I work with clients and for book collections, thrift stores, Goodwill bins. I'm actually going to the Goodwill bins this morning with my wife right after the show. We're going to hit it early on Memorial Day. So, but I find that having the knowledge in my brain allows me to do this job better, to find better things and to bring better books and save better books. I mean, I try to save them all. Let's be clear. Like if I can get the whole house or the whole whatever, I'm going to take it all and, we'll sort it when we get home. But like at the bins, I don't have that opportunity. And then there's the scanners and these are the folks that do the beep, beep, beep. And I'm not knocking them. I never gatekeep. I'm just glad the books aren't hitting the trash and I certainly can't save them all myself. But there's a lot of books that the scanners leave behind. And then also it helps if you can be a bit faster than they are because they'll just scoop all the books, throw it in a cart and then cart it off and they will scan them all later. The scanners at my bins, they grab like 4 cart full of books and then they go to the corner and the beep, beep, beep the whole time. So I got to be faster than those guys. And the best way to do that is to know there's nothing faster than the human eyeball and a brain that is pre-equipped with the knowledge necessary to kind of pull the good books out. And also the scanners don't generally mess with anything that doesn't have a barcode. So all the vintage antique books, they're not even looking through them. A lot of times they don't mess with paperbacks and sometimes Bibles and stuff they'll leave out. And there's a lot of collectible Bibles. Like I found an 1800s, early, I can't remember if it was late 1800s or early 1900s Book of Mormon that was pretty rare. So, but that's the whole point. That's why we do this. And plus I figured it'd be good knowledge also for like the entire community to have, because no book left behind means no book anywhere left behind, right? And if we all have more knowledge, we're all out there, we're encouraged, we're equipped to go out there and do the book ministry that it is saving books. Because every book that we can save is another book we can put in a person's hand. And that is an incremental value increase to humanity. It is a mission from God. My coffee's kicking in. So anyway, I was talking about how I'm mean on Facebook. If I would be less mean on Facebook if more people read. Amen. Anyway, so these are these are the ones we've done so far. We have Frida coming in at 54%. And this is a 90-day sell-through, so definitely people are absolutely looking for the Frida McFadden. Plus, I mean, just even as a bookstore owner or as a person who buys and sells books, it's important to know what people are looking for because you want to give the people what they want. Do you know what I'm saying? You want to maybe lead into some things that maybe they didn't know they wanted, but ultimately you want to serve the needs of your folks. You know what I'm saying? So having this knowledge and being like aware of book trends and whatnot just really just kind of raises all the ships everywhere. So Sarah Moss, we looked at her. She's if her name's on something, pretty much pick it up. Everything that woman touches turns to gold. And I think she's got some new stuff coming out too. So Robert Jordan. Anyway, you guys can see, I don't need to go over everyone. Michael Crichton is like the tech thriller kind of he's been writing forever. He wrote like Congo, Sphere, all that stuff. But here's how we do it. Let's do a real basic one that everybody knows. John Grisham. We see his books absolutely everywhere. What this is here, guys, is this is how we get our data. This is actually eBay. I sell a lot on eBay. I'm trying to bring all of that stuff over here, and we'll get there through time. But what ones are we doing today? We're going to start with John Grisham, and then and I'll take wrong button. I'll take requests, but I wanted to do some classics. There were some people bought some Michael Connelly and John Le Carre, so I thought that would be cool to kind of look up an author that people like purchased in the store. And I'll take requests. But let's just start with Grisham to kind of explain the process. What we're looking for is 90-day sell-through and the quantity of how many listings are actively being sold. And then, of course, any BOLOs or anything. And so what we're doing here, this is Terapeak, or what used to be called Terapeak. We're using the last 90 days. We're going to type in John Grisham, and we're going to be here for probably all the way up to about 8:30 my time, about an hour show today. I'm trying to do this show like more times during the week. I just, I got to get my shit together because this is really fun and this actually really is useful. And I also dig it because it gets I want to do all books. Books and man. Okay, so it's all books. Cool. Nope, I always forget to do that. I always forget to hit apply. There's an apply button down here somewhere. There we go. So the first number we're looking for, this is the solds. So anyway, I apologize, 127,000 sellers. That's a lot. That's a lot. So we're going to write that down. 127. That is actually the most listings I've seen of any individual author that we've looked up so far. That is an insane amount. So what that tells me is that there's like an infinite number of this guy's books on the secondhand market. The second number, which will kind of help us tell a more complete story, is if we go over to active. That's a lot. 100,000. That's a lot of John Grisham books out there. Yeah, that's a lot. What did I do? I'm doing something wrong here. Oh, John Grisham. Yeah. Last 90 days. Am I in the right category? What's going on? Our server failed. I'm like, why does it look different? Let's do this one more time. I'm going to double check that because it seems like I did something wrong. But if that's what the data is telling us, okay, so we're under active. Okay, that seems more realistic. I don't know what I was looking at. I don't know if the server kicked back something wrong. That seems much more. Because there's that would be saying that there's more John Grisham listings than all of the R.L. Stein books. And I didn't believe, that can't be right? And it wasn't. So I'm glad we double checked. So now we're going to come over to the sold tab. And now these are the books that have actually, exchanged hands. Money has exchanged hands. And this is a way better indicator of, how he's actually doing. Where the rubber meets the road, as they say. So we have only a 6.25% sell through. And that is not the worst we've seen. It is certainly not the best. And I'll fix these numbers up later. But 6.25%, 32,000. That means that there's a lot of them and they're not selling very fast. It seems like John Grisham has kind of, he'll always sell. But because there's so many printed of him, you're going to have a hard time moving them in mass unless you have something special or a lot of them. So these are Time to Kill first editions. I don't know if I believe, that seems like a lot. So you get the Sign. I think the Firm is like the second or third one in the whole deal. And just do be aware you're going to have some data, what's it called? Data pollution. So there you go. There's not really much else, but that's kind of the vibe. We just kind of look to see if there's anything special, what we would call a BOLO. My plan is as we identify the BOLOs on here, I'm going to start making YouTube videos and putting all the BOLOs into videos for everybody. Because everybody needs to be aware of the BOLOs because we need eyes and ears and all of the bookstores and thrift stores and Goodwill bins in the whole universe to save all the neat books. It pains my heart to think of how if a Tolkien first print going to the recycle bin because somebody didn't know what it was. I don't like it. Anyway, let's do John Le Carre. Off the top of my head, he does spy oriented stuff. He's kind of like a who's the guy that wrote James Bond? I can never remember his name. Gosh darn it. Somebody tell me. Fleming. Thank you, Ian Fleming. Can you add Douglas Preston? Yeah, not necessarily to do today, but Preston and Child. Yeah, we can. I have a bunch of Preston and Child upstairs. All right, let's do this one real quick. John Le Carre. We're still on books. Always like to reconfirm. 90 days. We're going to do every author in existence eventually. That's the plan. I want to be faster than AI. So let's look at active first. We're looking at John Le Carre. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he writes like spy related stuff. So he doesn't have a ton of listings. So in context, he has about a 25% or so of John Grisham. So not nearly as many books on the secondhand market, which, and that's just an indicator. Then we have to kind of use our analytical reasoning on why that might be. Is he just a less printed? Is he less popular? Is it, why? And ultimately I think it's because just, he's John Grisham was printed a lot and he wrote a lot of books and he's got a bunch of movies and stuff. So I think it's probably fair to say that Grisham's a bit more popular than the Karen. Note, popularity does not always have anything to do with talent. So here we have another really low sell-through rate. Not terribly low, but we got a 0.0649. So we'll probably just round that up to Fleming. Yep. We should look up Ian Fleming too. Add this to the list here. All right, so let's do Preston and Child. It's is this the way that we should write it in? Because we should look at BOLOs real quick. Let's look at BOLOs. So he's got some Easton. Ooh, that's pretty. The whole trilogy here. I didn't even know he had a trilogy. So these are good. We'll take a look at that. This is The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. This is, if I ever sell a John le Carre book, it's generally not this specific book, but the specific title. So I think that's his most famous one. And here, Folio Society is always going to be crazy expensive. We'll take a look at a few of these. Folio Society signed. This is the other one I've sold. I've sold this one, The Little Drummer Girl. Not signed though. I don't think I've ever found anything signed by this guy. Anyway, so it's kind of the same stuff. This is pretty. I want to see original list. Man, my computer's running slow today. Let me close a couple tabs, see if that helps. I'll bring that back up. All right, I think that helped a little bit. So these are pretty. Smiley's People, Honorable Schoolboy. I think these are Easton presses, right? These are always so gorgeous. And they're sealed. Pretty. So that's pretty straightforward. You would always pick those up if you saw it. This one's pretty neat. I've never seen this. I guess this is the first edition. It says, this is, in our view, a novel of the first order, a terrible novel of great actuality and high political import. It is also immensely thrilling. That cover is very understated. 1963 is the year. So if you see that cover out there in the wild, and see, and the other thing is like, this is why you can't really see it, but look how basic that spine is. Like, it's just a red spine. So if you're not actually looking, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna miss that, and you know what I'm saying. So it's good to know that exists. And of course, we won't look at the folio one. We know folios are always great. So there's that. Let's go back up here. We're gonna have Preston. So basically, with him, it's signed books, Folio Society, and then The Spy Who Came From the Cold first print. These really collector ones, I feel like they always are. They always are, and it's just one of those things. If you don't know what it looks like, your brain, like, I'm super neurodivergent, and like pattern recognition is a thing. I just need the data in my head. And then when I'm out there scanning, like, there's a speed bump in my brain that'll say, that from somewhere. And then I never not listen to that. I never, ever not listen to the book speed bump in my head. And every now and then I miss, but more often than not, it's important. So how should I type this in? Should I type this in just Preston and Child? I don't know if it's going to be case sensitive. Yeah, so usually with the and sign. Okay, so that's usually how I see it. So that's what we'll do. It is decided. Change my categories. Let's go back to books. Oop, I didn't hit apply because I never hit apply. If I ever get t-shirts or anything made, it's going to be, I never hit apply. Lord Jupiter, what's that? What is my local thrift store sells Easton Press editions for only $2. My Lord in heaven, buy every single one. All the time. God love them. Or tell them. I would probably just buy them and bring them on over to us. Get them in a collector. No, and that's cool. I mean, they don't know. They're just, they're getting it donated to them. They're just throwing it on the shelf. So, I mean, God love them for doing books. A lot of thrift store. I guess I can't say every thrift store around here does books, but some do them like varying degrees. Some of them have like a lot, and some of them just don't deal with them at all. I would encourage you, if you have the space in the workflow to handle large amounts of books, hand those folks a business card and say, hey, if you ever get a bunch of things you don't want to deal with, I'll deal with it. So here's kind of what I was worried about. It's bringing up a lot of a lot of Natasha Preston. I don't know who that is. Let's try it without the ampersand. Is that an ampersand? Is that what that's called? Let's give it a shot. Preston and chat. I still bring it up. Dang. That's insane, Lord Jupiter. Wow. What is a BOLO? Flow logo. A BOLO is be on the lookout. So like if you were to go to YouTube and just like whatever genre, whether it be books or Funko Pops or comics or whatever, you would type in, XYZ BOLO, you'll probably see a ton of videos that are like, oh, look what I found. Look what I found. Did you know? That kind of stuff. So, in our context, it's like an expensive or really collectible book that you want to be on the lookout for as you are, going around and doing your own book hunting, So, we're going to skip Preston and Child just because I can't write. I'm going to think about that, how to type that in to get that not to populate funny. Let's move on to Michael Connolly. We had somebody, I don't know who bought it, but let me double check. I want to say thank you to Diabetic Ninja. I don't know if you're in the room, but you picked up a Michael Connolly book, Lincoln Lawyer. So let's look up Michael Connolly and see. And I appreciate you picking that up. And I will have that out today before lunch. Oh, wait, I can't. It's Memorial Day. It's closed. Tomorrow before lunch. So, Flow Logo, my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. Please feel free to ask. This is a safe space to ask questions. Believe you me, I like questions. I like curious people. If the world were a bit more curious, we'd have a lot less problems. So who were we doing? I already forgot. ADD's a bitch. Michael Connolly. So there's 9,462 listings. So a little bit more popular than John Le Carre's. Let's just call it an even 9,500. Let's look at his sell-through rate, which will be over on sold. We like questions. I do like questions. I do like questions. I also try to teach people never to be afraid of the phrase, I don't know. Because it's not, there's a lot of things a lot of people don't know. It's like, but if you become aware that you don't know, and then you continue not to know, that's where the issue is. And of course, if it's something relevant. Seek that knowledge. Ask those questions. We have more access to knowledge right now than humanity has ever had. And it's a detriment to a certain extent because it becomes difficult to parse the information out there. And we could do a whole show on that. Misinformation, disinformation, how to source materials, etc., etc. But I'm going off on a tangent. It has nothing to do with books. But Mr. Goodman in the room, who's my buddy on Facebook, he's probably like, yeah, I know what he's talking about. I get really mouthy. One of these days, I'll do a video that kind of tells my origin story and how I got to like where I am. Anyway, 8.3% sell-through rate. That's not terrible. That's actually the best sell-through rate that we've gotten so far. But again, when we're going up against things like, I kind of use Stephen King as my baseline, kind of the 20% range. Like if I see someone who has an author that has a 20% sell-through rate, I'm picking up every title they have. Whereas somebody who's got like a lower, again, I'm going to save every book that I reasonably can. If I have an opportunity to take it all, I will. But if I have to be choosy, I'm not necessarily paying for the privilege of rehoming, an 8% sell-through book. You know what I'm saying? I'll take it and give it a new home. I'll let it sit for as long as it needs to. But there's a difference in paying for the privilege. Do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of where I'm at on all that. So guys, shoot me an author you think that has an amazing sell-through rate. I'm kind of bumming out on these 6%, 8%. I want a Frida or a Colleen or a Sarah. I need to add a good one. So we'll look up Hemingway while you guys rack your brains for one that's going to give me one that you think that's at least over 20. And I'll look up Hemingway while you guys. Lucy Score. We'll look her up next. I don't know who that is, but we'll find out. Okay, categories. We're going to go to books, which I'm hoping is actually the whole category, including antiquarian and collectible. All right, so this is Hemingway of Hemingway fame. He has 10,000 active listings. That seems about right. He's going to be more popular than these guys. Probably not as many reissues these days as there had been in the past. So let's look over to, my guess is he's probably got I'm going to predict. My guess is that he's got a lower sell-through rate insofar as that his reprints don't sell as well as maybe some of his like older collectible stuff. So I think we'll see a lower sell-through rate, but a lot of BOLOs. That's my prediction. Brandon Sanderson, we'll do him too. Let me put in here. I don't know. This came out when I was in middle school. I'm old. So that's about what I said. That's 11%, which is the best so far. But I bet you he'd even have a higher, we'll put 12, if he didn't have so many reprints. Because Hemingway is kind of the GOAT. Let's look at some of his BOLOs, because he'll have some BOLOs for sure. This actually concerns me because I would think they'd be much higher. We might have to rethink how we're doing all of this data, because if this doesn't also include antiquarian and collectible, we've probably been missing a lot of data. You see what I'm saying? Because like look what just happened. Because that would make me upset. I'll have to go back and recheck literally every bit of data we've done. Invisible. It's just something I'm putting together. See, I think this is where maybe I do need to go back to all, but the thing is like we're getting fountain pens and all sorts of weird shit. Oh, because we're in all categories. Hold on. Yeah, still. Because all of these weren't in all of the before. I bet you this has a higher sell-through rate. Yep, because it's more collectible. So that's unfortunate. We might have to just kind of think if this is more of like a guideline, and then we might actually have to check both categories and then average the two. Do you know what I'm saying? So like if the new collectibles was like, or like the new and used side was at 12, and then the antiquarian and collectible is 15, maybe we parse the difference at 14, or like half the difference. Yeah, Cassie, it was. I think I had it in all. I had it in the wrong category. But let's take a look at some Hemingway BOLOs, because these are pretty important BOLOs. For some reason, it won't let me highlight that one. Can we even see the image? That's pretty, isn't it? Where's my music? Skip it. All right, Blind Melon. That's a good song. So this is pretty. I don't know what this is. Is this the first print, first edition? Is that what this looks like? I don't think I've ever seen this. So that's pretty. First edition, 1929. So Easton Presses, I won't pull up. You guys know what those look like. So this is The Sun Also Rises first print. So note the art. The art has the same vibe as the other one. This is a reprint dust jacket, but 1926. Look at that. Would it be 7 years after World War I? He was in World War I. That's what that Spanish one's about, right? I can't ever remember. We'll probably see it in the list here. Sun Also Rises, I think, is the one about that one. This is a $1,600 book here, folks. So if it's old and it's got Hemingway on it, you snag it. Chances are it's probably a reprint, like that belongs to like a larger collection. But even those you can get a couple bucks for. Old Man in the Sea. This is probably my favorite Hemingway. The reprint covers, the reprint paperbacks have redone this exact cover. This, if you haven't read Hemingway, this is a really good kind of gateway into Hemingway. Really easy to read. You can read it in a day, and it's just a real classic tale, man versus nature kind of shit. And what you consider antiques and collectible, not you in particular, but in general, what are the sellers labeling it? Cassie, that's a really good question, because not every bookseller on eBay is going to care about the difference. And, and I think you're right. Like, is a 1980 first print of Stephen King, does that go into the new and used books, or does that go into antiquarian and collectible? Is it saying that it has to be antiquarian and collectible, or is it saying that it just has to be collectible? You know what I'm saying? And then also, when you list on eBay, whether you pick antiquarian, collectible, or new and used, the amount of data that you have to put on the back end changes. So I bet you anything, myself included, if we can put it in the antiquarian collectible, if it makes sense, we're probably going to, because it's faster to list. So, and then that will also skew your data. So I really do think that you probably have to average both sets. I don't think I think it'll be more relevant to the data when you're in a situation like Hemingway, who is an old author that has a lot of new reprints. So I think in that particular case, averaging the data, like Brandon Sanderson, but even then, because if they're putting in a collectible, you probably still do have to check, because like Brandon Sanderson is going to have probably collectible, or who's to say even a signed Brandon Sanderson wouldn't be in the collectible category. So I don't know. I don't know. I think we have to look at both. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. Is like when you're looking at data and spreadsheets, whether it's books, whether it's COVID sewer data or some weird shit from RFK, like you always got to look at the numbers they're telling you says the thing that it tells you. And then you have to kind of look for yourself and kind of reason what these numbers actually mean. You know what I'm saying? It's good to understand where the numbers come from and whether or not they actually say the thing that they say they're saying. Does that make sense? So, because even just look how nuanced this one little, what should be a simple spreadsheet is. And all of a sudden we're debating the psychological behaviors of eBay sellers. You know what I'm saying? Who may or may not be book people. You know what I'm saying? Because if you get a storage unit with a bunch of books, I mean, you just look up the listing like you do anything else, right? Hope you guessed right. Anyway, let's look up Brandon Sanderson. I'm over here running my mouth. A lot of BOLOs for Hemingway, but you guys probably already knew that. Let's do Brandon. I bet he is a high seller. So we're going to check both moving forward. And if I will say this, if I notice like it changes like massively, I will go back and re-average it. But even then, it's not necessarily an average, because you'd have to do by total listings. That's how you would want to average it, not by like divide by 2. You would want to divide by number of, anyway. I'm probably over reading and thinking this, but welcome to my brain. It won't turn off. Jesus help me. No, I'm kidding, but not really. Send prayers. Okay, so hit enter. That's what I haven't done. So here's Brandon Sanderson. Why did it change? I want it to be books. I'm failing at life here, team. Did it repop? Okay. So, and is this the most expensive stuff? Jesus. Okay, these are active, not sold. But my God, a $15,000 book? Are you kidding me? Why is a contemporary book worth $15,000? I don't understand. I do understand, but that's still crazy. So 6,000 active listings in this category. Maybe we'll just add them up. 6,000. Let's start checking that data. And there's only 159 in this category. So like, that's not a lot. Now it will be though that your BOLOs will probably be more in the antiquarian collectible. And that wouldn't matter, but I'm not necessarily tracking price. But this is cool to look at. So let's go ahead and just put the two numbers together. Let's call that 150 to make it easy math. And then we'll come back over here and we'll look at those BOLOs. It might be worth going back on some of the more popular authors and seeing if there were BOLOs that we missed that would have been in the antiquarian and collectible. Okay, those are not sold. I want to check those out. So roughly, just want to call it 6,000 listings for easy math. 6,000 listings. So all of these are probably slightly higher by several hundred, except for maybe Frida, because she only had 35 listings. I want to double check that. That's still kind of, and I'm pretty sure we double checked it when we looked it up the first time, but because anyway, okay, so let's go check out some sold stuff. This is in the overall category. He's got a 34.45% sell through. And I want to say that's probably the number that's going to be more relevant, because you're going to find way more regular Brandon Sanderson books than you are collectible Sanderson books. Obviously, any author, whether his sell-through rate is like 1% or 100%, like if it's a collectible signed, something special, you should probably pick it up anyway. And again, this is assuming you can't just take them all. So I am going to go ahead and put the 35%. I'm going to let Brandon Sanderson reign supreme, because that's kind of more what I'm interested in, right? Is the average book reader, like how popular is he? Do you know what I'm saying? And then I think even understanding that base knowledge can kind of give you input on how fast their collectible items would sell. So let's go over to the other category and see if we can't find some BOLOs of this guy. Does that make sense? Is my reasoning sound? You could totally ever push back on me. So he's got rough, like a little bit lower, but there's so few listings, I don't know how relevant it is. Do you know what I'm saying? It's 150 listings versus 5,800 listings. So, God, I love math. I'm such a nerd. I know. My wife does not like math. She's over there making the cat barf noise. I don't know if you can hear her on this microphone.
Math started it.
Math started it?
Math started it.
Oh, goodness. I hate math but love data. Amen. Okay, so let's look at it. So basically, I'm not going to look up necessarily any of these. These just look to be signed. If you find a signed copy of anything that he's written, it's probably worth about $100, $50 to $100. I don't know what those $15,000 listings were all about. Actually, before I talk shit. Okay, so here's some nicer ones. That's pretty. Look at that. That's pretty too. The Alloy of Law. Are you guys familiar with that? Words of Radiance. I'm not going to lie. The only way I know Brandon Sanderson is through Wheel of Time. I'm not overly familiar with his new stuff. Here's an uncorrected advanced proof. This is another way that you can kind of beat the scanners. And again, I like my scanners. We kind of work together, but you do got to go in and get yours. So this is one of the things that they would likely leave behind because they wouldn't know what it was. Because and again, there's exceptions to everything. Some of the scanners are amazing book people. Again, I'm not gatekeeping in any way, but generally, like if it's a paperback, they may not even pick it up out of the bins. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, don't ignore paperbacks when you're at the bins. I find a lot of vintage stuff because they're not looking by author, they're looking by barcode. Do you know what I'm saying? Cassie says, not familiar with either of those. Mistborn is great. Alloy of Law, I think, is Mistborn series. Robert Jordan is Wheel of Time. Yeah, Robert Jordan is Wheel of Time. And then I think he passed away around book 9, Knife of Dreams. Because I read up to that, and then I was like, oh man, I guess that's that poor guy. And then they tapped Brandon Sanderson to finish the series. And I haven't read any of the Brandon Sanderson. And I know they made a show, which I've also not watched. But it's on my list. So Brandon Sanderson, pretty good. He's got some bangers. Signed, uncorrected advanced reading copies. I would say same thing with Sarah Moss. If you can find ARCs or what they called of hers, those are big money, way more, probably around the same range. I think they were of this. I'm not sure. Firstborn Defending Elysium. What are these? Is this just like a first edition? So anyway, yeah, I would pick up anything that has his name on it. No lie. We'll add him to the list. All right, cool. We got a winner. We got a winner chicken dinner. Let's resort this. Z to A. Oh, no. Okay, I haven't added the percentage. So, yeah, Brandon Sanderson beats his where I heard him from. And then he's right under Sarah. Sarah and Brandon. Do. You look very nice.
Thank you. So cool.
You're welcome.
The magic fairy jar.
Do ex-library books of the high sell-through rate authors do well? That's a good question. It is harder to sell an ex-lib than I think it is a nicer copy of a book. But when I get ex-libs of popular authors, I throw them in my antique mall is generally what I do for very cheap, for like $1 or $2. And because people do pick them up, people do just want to read the books. This person can be the same person. Like you can be a collector and a reader, and just want to read. Like they're not mutually exclusive, but people do just want to read the books too. So I will keep those. I wouldn't necessarily throw that online or offer it like in another way I don't know if like it's worth paying shipping for. Like, cause there'll be, does that make sense? But yeah, well, and it depends on what it is too. Like if it's super collectible, like you can find ex-lib copies of older books that are like say you find an old ex-lib copy of Animal Farm or something like that. Somebody's going to want that. You know what I'm saying? So it does depend on what it is. But if you find, say, like a Stephen King, like the 13 Tales or whatever, it's kind of one of his newer books, it's an ex-lib, you'll be able to sell that book. No problem. You won't get as much for it as you would have had it not been ex-lib. But so everything's in context. I get some of my Kindle, but also hard. Yeah, Cassie brings up a good point, and it's interesting because publishing is kind of changing, and that's kind of what I see. And I think Frida is kind of when we had this discussion the first time, because she's got so few listings. It kind of opened up a conversation about how people are buying books today, and they're buying more and more books through audiobooks, which means less books are hitting the secondhand market. And a lot of times shelves, like more modern shelves, are full of like collectible books with like sprayed edges and really, which aren't going to be read. They're going to sit there like a trophy case, which is totally cool. And I also think that's why you're seeing more and more like special books and prettier books, because people are buying them to display them as art pieces or as, like a checklist or a trophy case or a display case. And it's a statement, right? You make a statement with your bookcase. When somebody comes in, that's usually one of the first things I see, like I can find out a lot about who you are based on what you read within reason, of course. But anyway, next author. Who else did we want to do? Sorry, I'm getting kind of rambly. Lucy Score. I'm not sure who that is. Let's find out. What does Lucy Score write? Books and magazines. Apply. 100% almost as good looking at someone's medicines cabinet. Yeah. HIPAA exists for a reason, right? That's funny. I never thought about that, but that's probably accurate too, to a certain extent. So in the antiquarian, okay, in the regular one, she's got 23%. So let's give her 23% for now, which is pretty good. That's above Stephen King. Oh, sorry about the ad, guys. The music's coming from YouTube today. You guys may not even be able to hear it. Can you guys hear the audio at all? The background audio? Should be really light. Back over here. Let's close that. All right. So 23% sell-through rate. Let's see about how many listings she has. We'll see what she writes here in a second. So 27, we'll call it 2,700. Not a ton. Where's she at? Down here? 2,700. Let's check her out. We'll go back over to sold. Scroll down. So so she's got some Fairy Loot books. I've seen a couple of Fairy Loot. That's like a subscription box, right? The Fairy Loot. So here's her ARC. Blue Moon series. What's the Blue Moon series about? She's newer but contemporary romance. Is she like a book talkie romance or is she kind of? Oh, this is cool. These are pretty. It's kind of what I was talking about. Books are so freaking pretty now, and I'm not saying that condescendingly. Like I enjoy it. Like I love that they're pretty. I think they're cool. That's neat. I like that typography too. So, bookish box. I've seen bookish box too. It's kind of like you see this a lot in like comics and stuff where they'll do like covers specifically, like limited edition covers. Like Rick and Morty, number one's got like 20 different number ones. That's cool. All right, let's look at the antiquarian collectible. Even though, like, so this would be a good indicator. Why is it not allowing me to pick? What? Maybe she doesn't have any in the antiquarian collectible? Let's look all categories real quick just to see if she's got some BOLOs that aren't in there. But that might be the case because but it wouldn't make sense to me because like there would be a few that would put her in. No, but it's kind of the same stuff we just saw. So maybe she just doesn't have any. Knock 'em out series, is that what that's called? Okay, that's what, and I love those sprayed edges. That's cool. Just so you guys know, there are antique books that you can find that have these kinds of edges. And sometimes you have to like move them just right to kind of see it and stuff. But just be aware. Sometimes if you're looking at an antique shelf, if you could look at the other side and kind of go through the book pages, just, run through them. Frankenstein has that. That's cool. There are like 50 book subscription boxes. Wow. Different strokes for different folks. I bet you, there's probably like horror, romance. So anyway, Lucy's good. I'd pick up Lucy. Her books, to be clear. I got to be careful what I say online. Jeez. One clip out of context. Boom, done. Steve the Book got canceled. He says he loves his wife, but does he? He's taking home all these female authors. God, the internet sucks sometimes, doesn't it? Anyway. So Lucy Score. We did Lucy Score. Let's do another classic. Let's do John Steinbeck. He's probably one that we would have to look up in both categories. Let's start off with books because he's been writing forever. He wrote Grapes of Wrath, East of Eden, bunch of books. Bunch of Mice and Men, which probably a lot of us, especially if you're around my age, probably read in school. Let me first check. Okay, so we have a 19% sell-through rate, which is pretty freaking good and he's, like I said, an older author. And I bet you his antiquarian collectible will be stronger. Even though at the same time it might be weaker because, like, again, this guy was reprinted a bajillion times. So about 8,000 listings over here. We'll see what we see. We'll see what we see. 46 minutes, guys. This is probably going to be my last one, and I'm going to preview some of the shows that we have coming up. I needed to get out here right about the 55-minute mark. We're at about 46 minutes now. Just a heads up. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and kind of nerding out. I'm going to try to do this more often just because again, it's good data. And it's fun to know things, I think. Did I change it? No. I wanted to see what the solds were. But yeah, let's finish up Steinbeck, and I'm going to preview some of the shows that we have. Am I on sold? What's this? The Forgotten Village. That's a newer one. Signed by film director. A Life in Letters. So anything signed, obviously, by Steinbeck is going to be really good. That's what the Mice and Men looks like. Let's look at that. Sea of Cortez, I've never heard of. Here's an East of Eden first printing. We'll look at that. These I see every now and then. These are really cool. I've never had all 6 at once, and I'll show you that in a moment. Let's look at this one. Steinbeck's the GOAT, or Steinbeck is the GOAT. All right. Before we go look at the fun ones, let's go back up here because I think there's even more fun ones probably under here. All right. So a little bit lower sell through. Oh, well, it didn't really change. Did I not change it? I guess, is it the same? So maybe we have been doing good and I'm overthinking it. Yeah, it didn't really change the data. Am I cray-cray? I might be cray-cray. I have been known to be cray-cray. Yeah, well, I guess it did change the sell-through, didn't it? Okay, yeah, there's definitely different books down here. Holy smokes. Is that active or sold? That's sold. Okay, so here's an Of Mice and Men's second printing. Here's another Grapes of Wrath. We're going to look at, that's $3,000, $2,000. I didn't even know that book existed. Signed The Moon is Down. That's a good one. All right, let's look at these. So again, if Steinbeck's one of those, if it's old and it has the word Steinbeck on it, it's one you pick up. Tortilla Flats is another big, huge one. We would have read a paperback of this in high school, most of us. Sea of Cortez, this is a $100 book here. I'm not overly familiar with this title. Steinbeck is the novelist and Ricketts, the biologist, join forces in a unique fishing trip. This is the personal story of their expedition. A separate section records their scientific findings with a scientific appendix on their maritime animals. Maybe it's a nonfiction? Or maybe there's a joke there I don't get. I don't know. Again, Viking Press. It's got Steinbeck on it. Pick that up. 100%. And again, to point out the scanners, they'll leave this stuff behind. They don't necessarily know who Steinbeck is. And again, there's going to be an exception to every rule. And I'm not like trying to be reductive or whatever, but like this is kind of a good target, these older books, for when you're in the bins looking to source, to save what they're going to leave behind. You know what I'm saying? And every place is going to be different. You'll go in there a bunch of times. You'll get a vibe for it. And then I always find, instead of like going against them per se, I like to kind of fit in the mold where they're not. So instead of becoming competitive, it becomes like a rising tides raise all ships kind of a scenario. A little John Nash, everybody wins going on. Excuse me. These are gorgeous. These are contemporary. I see these at estate sales for $1 or $2 all of the time. All of the time. I 100% pick them up. And they're gorgeous. I've never had all, so, and they sell well. So, and these, you know, and they display well and they're new. So always pick those up. These I see, and I think they've reprinted these paperbacks in contemporary form, I want to say, or these might be the contemporary ones. I'm not sure. Maybe they are. Kind of looks old, but this one might be made to look old. Okay, so Penguin, this is probably from the 60s maybe. Do the books have barcodes on them? No. Steinbeck, Centennial. I think these are contemporary. I think on here it would be weird. Do you think would be the best location to sell collectibles? It depends. That's a great question, Cassie. The one that I constantly think about. I don't know. I really don't know. I've been too scared to kind of run like more expensive collectibles at lower prices. Because I'm a bookstore, not necessarily like a liquidator kind of person, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? I've thought about doing shows that had just like really expensive books in them, like $100 books, and then doing them as like buy nows, and then just kind of like maybe do 10 in a show, and then you know, just talk about them, show them off and things like that. With no expectation that you might have to do a couple of shows where you're not, or even a bunch of shows where you're not selling any of those things. And I think, and you know, and then maybe over time you can do flash sales and kind of like rotate the show back in. But like expensive books sit, like if you know, sometimes it takes 6 months to a year to 2 years to find the right buyer for the rarer books. They're out there. People want them. We got to find them and save them. But, I don't know. I've not really given it a fair shake. And I've sold some more expensive books on here. I can't say that I've sold anything like crazy expensive. So, you think I'm not a seller, but just curious. I I know like there's a couple of other, it just depends on your business model. Like, you know what I'm saying is I know some of the other folks, like they have more access to inventory, so they're less concerned. You know, they don't, you know, if they sell $100 book for $2, that's not a big deal because they got another one coming up right behind it. I am not blessed in that way. So I have to kind of sit on them a little bit to make sure I don't, like, I'm not looking to like, you know, overcharge, but I can't leave too much meat on the bone. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, this is a great tune. But that's a good question. I think I don't know. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I am going to start trying, though, something that I wanted to do this upcoming week. Speaking of which, let me show you these shows. Was to kind of do a show like I'm talking. That's a show we're doing now. If you like comics, we're doing comics soon. The reason why I'm rushing now is if I don't get out the door for the bins at the right time, I'm in the bad place in line and it doesn't work. So we're doing lots and lots of comics, lots of $1 lots, $2 lots. So if comics are your vibe, definitely hang out for that one. We're doing cookbooks soon. We have a show. This show here is our next Friday night show where we just, you know, the one at night where we just kind of hang out and shit. Dude, so like I got like a flat or two of just Star Trek in here. So like that's your vibe. So I'm putting a lot of sci-fi in this one. Let me see here. So lots of Star Trek. You can see all that there. And that's coming up on Friday. What else do we got here? And then we're doing like an really old ass book show early in June. So that'll be fun. But guys, it will have to be it for me. I do got to get changed into some warmer clothes. It's actually pretty cold here. And I'm out the door to do a bins run. I appreciate everyone hanging out with me. I am recording these, so I'm gonna chop it up and I'm gonna throw it on YouTube, and you know, and then eventually I'll do just BOLOs, and we'll have those kind of videos set to the side. That way we have kind of a reference file. So I appreciate everyone hanging out. I'm doing the Midwest goodbye like I always do. I would raid somebody, but I don't have time, so I'm just gonna bail. Sorry for the awkwardness. Bye. I gotta go.